Welcome to Grieve with Portia, the podcast that uncovers the hidden treasures within grief. I'm your host, Portia the producer, and I'm inviting you to join me on a transformative journey where we will exchange laughter, of course the best medicine of them all, reflect on cherished memories. Remember that time that the little boy grabbed my hand instead of his mother's at the amusement park? Yikes. And of course discover gratitude while navigating one of life's hardest challenges, loss. So get ready to grieve with me, Portia the producer. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Grieve with Portia. I am your host, Portia Booker, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep up with the latest and greatest of all with Grieve with Portia. Those of you may remember when I had to make the pivot from my TV career after I had my mental health obstacle challenges back then. It's been about 10 years now. One of the things that I held close in my heart is that there was more to Portia's life than this. I'm going to say it again. There was more to Portia's life than this, but I didn't know what this was back in that time. And when I look at where I am today, I'm very grateful that I held on to that mantra, if you want to call it, because when I think on where I am, the things that I've accomplished, I would have never imagined that I would be here today. And so for all of you who are tuning in today, I have the honor of having an individual who also kind of went through a same obstacle as me. She was the former CEO of the Maryland Benefit Health Exchange, but she had kind of a pivot also in her career due to a brain tumor. And now she is the author of the new book, You Don't Have to Achieve to Be Loved. Escape the lies you've been sold to design the life you want. So welcome to Grieve with Portia, Miss Becca Pierce. Becca, it's an honor to have you today.
It is an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
Becca, for starters, what are you grateful for today?
You know what? I'm actually so grateful for you and the work that you do. I spent the morning listening to several of the podcasts and I was in tears several times. And I'm so thankful for and just the latest podcast, Eric lost his daughter named Elena, and my daughter's name is Elena. And all
Wow.
of a sudden, it just brought to light. And she's also 18 years old. She's also a freshman in college. And so it just, it hit me directly in the heart and thinking about like just being so present when she's around and recognizing like I don't want to ever have to be in the place where I think to myself, oh, I wish I was more present. So
100%.
yeah.
And I've received that, Becca, I do, because, there's so many of us, we go through life waiting on that big break or that moment, right? But it's in the present is where the gift is.
Yeah.
Right. And even when we have experienced losses like Eric and I with people in our lives that have made a big impact on us, sometimes it's hard to be present because it's as though we're waiting on that moment when we'll see them again. But
Yes.
they've still given us that gift of them leaving an imprint on our hearts.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So I appreciate you sharing that with us today, Becca. Becca, as I brought up in the beginning, you went from being CEO of this company to getting a brain tumor. And I'm curious, Becca, what was your faith journey like to getting to where you are today? And also, how did you learn to integrate the grief of the past versions of yourself and the life that you thought that you would have to the version of Becca who we see today?
Yeah, it's actually a very integrated process that's not the word I'm looking for, up and down process, right? And nothing is linear. And I think that there is a lot of when I lost my job quite publicly, above the fold with a picture on the news, 5, 6, and 11, the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah.
I was devastated. I had, and talk about mourning a loss, like I had lost my identity. Who was I? And it feels maybe very similar to you in that it's like this was my trajectory. I had at that point put everything in my life. I spent 2 years not taking my daughter to school because the job was too important. And I was so integrated in that and I lost my identity in that. And so that original loss and mourning, figuratively and literally, was sitting in a dark room, just mourning. What's going to happen? Who am I going to be? What happened? How could this happen to me? How dare this happen to me? I had done everything that I could possibly do. So there was that a lot of anger wrapped in there. Fast forward to after the brain surgery. So it was 14 months between the time that I lost my job and I had my brain, I was diagnosed with my brain tumor. I had surgery 5 weeks after that. Again, it's interesting because directly following my surgery, it was optimism all over the place. I woke up, they woke me up on that table, and the first thought was, oh my God, thank God I'm alive. And I shifted from this place of I've got to get done, I've got to get done, I've got to get done to it's 65 degrees and raining in the middle of May. Thank God I'm alive. Who cares? Right? So it was this complete shift from constant pushing myself to achieve to this place of, oh my gosh, like this is the most beautiful thing in the world. And I joke because I'm like, I always say, can't we just all sing Kumbaya? Like, what are we doing here? Right? During my recovery, where I used to say every 12 hours something got better. I couldn't wait to go to sleep and wake up the next morning because something would be better. Like, oh, I can go to the bathroom by myself. Or, oh, I didn't throw up when I turned my head, or, there was always something new. But in recovery, that slows down. And at some point, the trajectory forward stopped. And that's where the depression kicked in. And that's where the anger started to kick in. So I was really this very optimistic person post surgery. And then the anger kicked in. How dare you take away my identity again? I don't want this identity. I don't want to be, a brain tumor survivor. I don't want these things, which I think is often in grief that people have to deal with. This is an unwanted identity. I don't want to now have no parents. I don't want to not be a daughter anymore. Right? Like this is a horrible place to be. Like I can choose to accept this, or I can choose to still be angry and in pain and wish for the life that I used to have, or I can accept the fact that this is what handed to me, and I'm going to move forward with it. And it wasn't until I tapped into both the optimism and anger that allowed me to move forward.
Becca, there was a quote, I can't remember it right now, that talked about anger. And it kind of painted the picture of anger being that cheerleader for you when
Mm,
you know that you deserve better, right? It's that little
interesting.
voice in the back of your head, like, I don't like this. So because I don't like this, I'm voicing it because I
Interesting. Yeah.
know I'm allowed to sit in this boat of upset, anger. But at the same time, this is kind of that rebound moment where I'm like, okay, am I going to just sit here and stew in it? Or am I going to take this energy and actually use it in a positive way?
Yes. Yes, for sure. And for me personally, and for the people that I coach too, it's being very specific about it, understanding where the anger is. You can't just be angry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Angry at what and what can you do about it? How do you target that energy?
Becca, I'm curious, what did it take for you to hold on to your faith? Because I think a lot of people, like when they're grieving,
Hmm.
especially like in Eric's case where his daughter was murdered, right? I
Hmm.
know even in my case, even though both my parents didn't go in that kind of tragic way, both of them had health ailments that kind of took them down. I know for a little bit of time, I was upset. I was
Hmm.
angry. And I told God, I wrote God two letters that are in
Mm.
my audiobook, Finding Grace Within Grief, Her Transition, My Transformation. And I blatantly asked God, are you okay with watching your children suffer? Do you find glory in that? And if so, please explain to me why. Please help me understand. And believe it or not, Becca, I got a response.
Did you?
I did. And God kind of told me, listen, Portia, my child, take a seat. Take a seat. Okay. I needed mommy back because I have a special calling for you and you are becoming too distracted by other things in the world.
Mm.
And so I'm curious for you, Becca, what was that faith journey like? What did it take for you to run towards your faith and not turn away?
I think it's interesting because the I imagine these things in my mind as two. incidents that led to my future. And in the first incident, I didn't listen.
Mm,
God was saying to me, slow down. You need to do something different. You are not present for your family. You're not present for anybody around you. You are solely focused on your future. You're solely focused on the achievement. Because at that time, that was my core belief. Why would people love me if I didn't achieve?
mm,
And that had been my core belief my whole life. So it was this constant push to do something. You know, I was a CEO by the time I was 39. I'm so successful. Like, I'm so proud of myself, but I wasn't. And so God was saying to me, you need to slow down. Right. And so it wasn't until the brain surgery, because I went back and found another job. I was a vice president within a hospital system. Like, I was back on that track until the brain tumor happened. And that's when I figured out, oh, I didn't listen the first time. I hear you now. I hear you, right? Something has to change. This is happening for a reason because I didn't listen the first time and I hear you now. And so that it was that acceptance that, like, okay, I get it, that allowed me to move forward and accept it.
mm. And Becca, I'm glad you brought that up about how you didn't have to be all of these things to be loved.
Yeah.
And I think we chase success, right? Because that's what we're spoon fed, right? You
Mm.
go to school, you get the degree, you live the American dream, right? And you've made it with the white picket fence, the same probably
Yep.
lie that you were sold that I was too.
Yep.
And I'm curious, Becca, what did it take for you to really shift your mindset around success? And what I mean by that is, when did you recognize that you were living the success of somebody else and not what you wanted?
So two things here. There's an interesting story that so post surgery, right after surgery, my neighborhood, we probably do have white picket fences in our neighborhood, by the way, just to give you a sense of kind of where I live. And the neighborhood did a food train for me, as neighborhoods do, right? This is just a very humane, very nice. This is what neighbors do for each other. They do a food train. But I could not understand. I honestly couldn't, my brain could not connect why somebody would do that for me because
Mm,
I hadn't achieved anything for them. I hadn't done anything for them. In fact, I had failed just a year and a half earlier publicly. Why would anybody do this for me? And it seems very simple for the for people who aren't living it, right? So you're looking at me and you're probably thinking, of course you would accept that food train, right? But it was such a mind-blowing realization for me that somebody would do something for me when A, they didn't really know me and they may not even like me, right? Like it was just like, oh my gosh. So I forgot the second half of your question.
so that's okay. I was really getting at, when did you recognize that the success you were chasing was somebody else's and not
Yeah.
what you really wanted?
So I think, again, post surgery, I went back to work. I had to prove to myself that I could do the job. I didn't want the brain tumor to win. And so I went back to work and worked my butt off to be able to do my job again as a vice president. It was a very stressful job, and I lost a lot of my abilities post surgery. And so, right at the time, it took about a year for me to realize that I was able to do the job again. And right at that time, I remember looking in the mirror in the morning. I was getting ready to go to work, and I was like, why am I doing this?
Mm,
My daughter at the time was 8 years old. And the only thing I wanted to do was put her on the bus one more day because we never know if we're going to have tomorrow to put our daughter on the bus. So
mm-hmm.
why was I leaving my house at 8 o'clock for an 8:30 meeting when my daughter's bus wasn't until 9 o'clock? That's when I realized this is not what I need anymore.
You recognize the value of time currency.
It's the only thing that matters. It is the anybody who's dealing with grief right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It is the only thing that matters in the world. It is the
Yeah.
only thing that's going to matter when you get a diagnosis because we all get some sort of diagnosis at some point in our life. And that's when you realize it's the only thing in the world that matters.
100%. I think back to Becca, when we got the notice that my mom didn't have a full year to live, I was
Hmm.
still working in corporate then. And I
Hmm.
was one of the top performers on my team.
Hmm.
And it was the 4th of July weekend, like right after. And I knew that Monday, I said, you know what? You only get one mother in this world.
Yep.
And I said, I would rather spend time with her than give another early morning to do this. I'd grown tired of what I was doing. And kind of like you, I looked in the mirror and I said, what am I doing?
Hmm.
Why am I not doing what I desire to do instead of, following kind of the programming that I've been spoon fed of, oh, you
Right.
need to get a job, you need to work, you have to make a living for yourself.
And
And
if you
so,
say yes to every single thing that's put in front of you, then you're going to be successful and happy.
that part. And I'm
Right.
still learning, Becca, to become a boundary Jedi when it comes to people asking for different things. And like what I brought up to you early before we
Mhm.
started the conversation, that I decided to close all of my books for the rest of 2025 to give myself that grace and love and to regroup, that I tell my clients to do the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not always easy, especially, let's be realistic, that I think it's a just a woman thing. We always feel like we have to prove, right? We have to show the world, oh yeah, we're the little train that could. But then we have to also recognize that, to what extent are we literally burning ourselves or putting ourselves in our own grave?
Yep. Absolutely. And that is, the subtitle of the book is Escape the Lies You've Been Sold to Design the Life You Want, because we never realize this is the water we're swimming in
Mm-hmm.
until you wake up one day and realize you're unhappy.
Oh yeah. And I think a lot of us, once that awareness piece
Hmm.
touches you, then you can't go back. Right?
That's
Right, you can't go, I mean,
you cannot.
you it hurts your stomach. Me and my boyfriend talk about this often. How I've seen, a little digression here. I've seen several dream jobs that I've wanted when
Hmm.
I was still working in media that are now
Uh-huh.
open, they're vacant. And I told my boyfriend, when I see them, whether it's on LinkedIn or Indeed or any other career site that you can think of, yeah, my eyes get all excited, like, oh, I could fill this role. But immediately, Becca, my stomach is like, don't you dare.
Well,
Don't you dare.
it is so good that you have that bodily reminder, because some people still kind of, even though it's not what you want, it's difficult for people to
Hmm.
say no to that, because that is the shiny penny. That is the proof that we're powerful. That is the proof that we're smart. That is, and that's where I hear you. It's very difficult to walk away from that.
And just that time currency that I have.
Yeah.
Me and my boyfriend, we both, I mean, obviously, I control my own schedule, and
Right.
he works remote on 2 days a week. So I
Hmm.
can spend one of those days with him and work from his house, and we can be with each other.
That's beautiful.
Instead of so many other people where they're on opposite shifts or they're both at work all day. I'm grateful that we have that flexibility in the life that I've created for myself.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's been a struggle a little bit, but at the same time, I wouldn't trade it for the world because of the abundance of time that I've been given back. Right.
Agreed. Yeah.
Becca, I love this conversation because I think it really hits on reinventing yourself after you've held on to this identity. You were married to this identity of yourself, and then it was stripped away from you, right? And now you're
Hmm.
in this boat that nobody wants to be in, of who am I now,
Hmm.
right? And I'm curious for you, Becca, what did it take for you to show yourself grace during this reinvention of you?
That took a
Ah,
lot. That took a lot. And part of it is because this whole achievement drive that I had had my whole life, I firmly believed that if you just worked harder for something, it would come to fruition.
mm,
But the body always wins. So for the first year post-surgery, my face was completely paralyzed, and there is
wow.
nothing you can do about it. There are no facial exercises, there's no nothing you can do about it. You just have to wait for the nerve to regrow. And it was the hardest learning for me to say to myself, you just need to let it be. There's nothing you can do. Give yourself the grace to let your body recover. That was such a hard learning for me.
It's almost as though your brain kind of had a sense of permanent Bell's palsy almost.
Yes. Yes.
And just as you're probably standing in the mirror every day, looking at yourself, where one point in your life you had free mobility, without restriction, to now this is who I am, and learning to love the woman in the mirror.
Is still a battle every day. I will admit, still a battle every day. And it was my daughter who continues and still continues to remind me, Mom, it's not what your face looks like. Nobody cares. Nobody sees it. It's really what's inside of you, right? So what we teach children is hard to believe as an adult. And so, it's listening to her, listening to the out of the mouths of babes to remind myself that like,
Mhm.
okay, same that I don't need to achieve. My face doesn't need to be perfect for you to love me.
That part. I think I love what your daughter said. Like, people aren't paying attention to that.
Right,
They're seeing that Becca is still showing up as the Becca who we knew, but
right,
even better.
right.
Right. And essentially, Becca, through this, you've been able to kind of channel and alchemize the grief of who you thought you were going to be, and
Hmm.
also the life that you were going to have in this new book. You don't have to achieve to be loved. I'm curious, Becca, how did you really settle on the title for this and recognize that this was a limiting belief that you carried for so long?
So it's interesting because I say this to clients every once in a while. I say, you don't have to achieve to be loved, right? Like this is a core belief that many overachievers have. Every
Mm,
time I bring it up, people go mute. There's silence in a room. If I bring it up in a room, everybody stops and says, "Oh, really?" And so that's why it was that silence that pervasive silence when I bring this up that had me choose that as the title because I think it's so thought-provoking and it touches so many people.
mm. That silence spoke. That's
Yeah.
what it was. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that there is a voice in the silence,
Hmm.
right? And we tend to want to avoid silence because, I mean, so Beck, a little side note too, I run grief groups. So I run the parent loss group and the suicide loss group. And one of the co-facilitators who I've had the honor of working with often says the word wait. Why am I talking? Right?
Hmm.
When we want to talk and make a point, but we're not here to be the ones to talk. It's the participants who
Right.
we're here for. We're creating a space for them, a safe container for them to be able to voice the hurts and also the grief journey that we all have happened to be in as a result of the loss.
Right. Right.
Right. And so for me, I love being reminded of the power of silence
Mm.
because I think so many of us avoid it, but really there's a message within the silence for each of us to take away.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Becca, we're going to be running out of time here
Hmm.
soon, and it has been an honor to have you on the show. For our audience who's tuning in, I'm sure there's going to be other individuals, Becca, who want to connect with you, who want to get a copy of your book, and just want to also see you as a living example of taking something that was birthed for you, given to you, and reinventing yourself to show the world that, yeah, this happened, but I'm standing strong and I've reinvented myself in ways that other avenues may have not have done for me. So how can others connect with you, Becca, and get a copy of your book as well?
The easiest and fastest way to do that is to go to morebeccapierce.com. And Pierce is Pearce, not the PIE version, the PEA version. Morebeccapierce.com. And what you'll find there is a little bit more of my story. You'll find access to the book, and you'll also find I do speaking engagements for women's groups, for I actually speak at, at conferences and things like that to help people recognize that there is, going back to your original statement, there is life beyond whatever is happening to you right now, and recognizing, my thing is this: I don't want other people to have to go through what I went through, to recognize the beauty that life can actually be, as opposed to the stress and the everyday struggle that life is for a lot of people. So my goal is to help people see that and create the change for them in the future. And so I do that through speaking, coaching, and the book.
Excellent. So everyone, you can go to more Becca Pierce. Remember, that's Pearce, not
Mhm.
Pie. And
Right.
you'll be able to find all the things you need. Becca's book. If you definitely want to book her for a speaking engagement in the future, you can do all of that there.
Yes.
Well, everybody, that was Miss Becca Pierce that you heard from today on Grew with Portia. And that concludes another episode. And until next time, everybody, peace and hair grease, everyone.